fellow Freedom Sovereign Thinkers, LL3's newest podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangroves of South Florida. And today's date is Saturday, March 4th, 2017. Yes, today is the anniversary of the great state of Florida. We joined the United States of America on this day in history in the year 1845. Pretty stuff, neat, and it actually means festival of flowers. Now what I see in South Florida is like festival of concrete and luxurious pigeonholes. Come on, I don't care how they do it in other big mega cities. Don't need it. None of us need it. Yeah, so not bad little skies, nice and cool. I have my dog with me, just chilling. I'm at CJ's Lounge, Java Lounge to be exact, located at 400 Southwest 1st Avenue, or they considered it Southwest New River Drive in the heart of Fort Lauderdale, along the New River, right by southwest corner of the Andrews Avenue Bridge. Oh, yeah, looks like some big festivals are happening. There's some Italian festival at the park right across the river. Supposed to be something occurring around bar crawl. Like, who cares? I may check it out anyway. I think my dog wants to meet some young ladies, right, baby? Guys are like, yeah, Pops. He wants to meet some chicks, meet some good-looking ladies. Like to be flirted with. That's Jake for me. Good boy. Yeah, I love him too. All right, well, I'm not going to go too crazy on some of my rants while I was examining a few things today and even yesterday concerning freedoms and so forth. But let's just start off what the hell. And actually caught my eye, just going through some of the pages. And it's here called 28pages.org. Came out a couple of days ago. It says, meet 70 Americans working for Saudi Arabia against 9/11 justice. So it reads here, how much would Saudi lobbyists have to pay you to help undermine a new law that enables 9/11 families and survivors to present evidence against the kingdom for its alleged assistance to the 9/11 hijackers? According to the Department of Justice, mandated by Foreign Agents Registration Act, some of your fellow citizens have done so for as little as $5,000. Others are cashing in, or on a much bigger scale. They'll say they're doing it for different, baseless reasons, but there's no doubting the aim of their faraway masters. The September enactment of the Justice Against Sponsorship of Terrorism Act, or JASTA, was resounding defeat for Saudi Arabia and its lobbyists in Washington undaunted the kingdom and its fellow travelers in and out of the United States government immediately launched a coordinated assault on the new law. Senators John McCain and Lindsey Graham, who have urged colleagues to amend JASTA, representing only the legislative tip for the Saudi spear. Far less conspicuous in a formidable array of U.S. lobbying firms assembled by the kingdom. McCarthy's D.C. Jim Rosen reported last week that the Armada now spans at least 17 firms, including heavy hitters Cruvis MSL Group, Brownstein Hyatt, and Squire Patton Bowes, collectively billing the kingdom more than $1 million every month. Many of these firms, in turn, hire additional companies and influential individuals to help carry out the kingdom's wishes. This makes Benedict Arnold one unique, genuine patriot, I would say. October buying spree, 2 weeks after JASTA's passage, in the stark illustration of Saudi Arabia's determination to kill the nascent JASTA in its fancy. Corvus went on the influence inquisition spree. And in a little over a month, the firm engaged approximately 70 third-party individuals to work on behalf of Saudi Arabia. By contrast, there were only 5 comparable registrations in all of 2015. 28page.org has scoured these registrations in the spirit of transparency that inspired the law that mandates them. We present something of a who's who among Americans aiding the kingdom in its efforts to keep 9/11 families and survivors at bay. Cataloging scores of lobbyists, public relations, and other individuals engaged throughout the United States, this directory gives just a hint of the full breadth of Saudi Arabia's anti-Jasta effort. Griffiths is, after all, just one of 17 firms employed by the kingdom. Top observation, some agents with the lowest profiles on the internet have received some of the biggest payouts. For example, who are you, Mr. and Mrs. Jody Tefford of Seattle? What are you doing to earn $36,000? Three firms appear to be playing a particularly large subsidiary role in working against Jasta. LS2 Group of Des Moines, Duane Morris Government Strategies in Pittsburgh, and Vectra Corporation in Richmond. It's no surprise to see former government officials in the mix, but there's even a current score. In the Nevada State Assembly, the state chair of the South Dakota GOP also signed in. How sweet! Possibly doing oil trades, you know how that goes. User guide. Name links to agent's FARA registration form, which must be filed within 10 days of agreeing to work on behalf of a foreign government. Agents connected to the breaking scandal involving the use of military veterans to lobby against Jasta without telling them who's behind the effort. It appeared in red. It disclosed on FARA form, we share their compensation for Saudi work. We list business associations while we could identify them. Keep in mind, those businesses may not be involved in Saudi undertaking. Interesting. I'm going to look at this a little bit more further, my friends. I think it's a lot more than this. I'm just going to look at it from the actual page here, just to be on the safe side. And this came out March 2nd, all right, just to give you folks a heads up. Oh, yeah. Send correction additional information. That's the user guide, right. It's right here. Send correction additional information to info@28pages.org. And check this out. Nice list here from District of Columbia. Michael Gibson, Advocacy Group President. This firm is a key player in the veteran lobbying scandal, arranging travel and coordinating support for the veterans while in Washington. Sarah Rack, Advocacy Group Inc. Christina Gibson, The Herald Group. Nicole Y. Williams, IR Plus Media. Former congressional staffer, compensation $12,000. Kathleen Summer Grice, Washington, D.C., Manchester, Maine. Boston Acadia, LLC, Public Affairs and Political Consultant. Former George W. Bush appointee to the U.S. Department of Labor. Can we say a globalist Aunt Jemima? Saudis, BITCH? You figure it out. Of course. On October 9th, Summer Grice signed her FARA form notifying the DOJ that she will be working on behalf of the kingdom, known for arbitrary arrest of dissidents, flogging of journalists, systematic discrimination against religious minorities, maltreatment of women, public beheadings, and a merciless war on Yemen that features the use of banned munitions, a wanton disregard for human civilian life, and a blockade inflicting a humanitarian disaster. Perhaps she promptly had a change of heart. 19 days later, via Twitter, Summer Grice made a noble proclamation of her values. I will never support a company or a nation that oppresses human rights. It's on Twitter, so you could look that for yourself. And how about the one in Alaska? Frank Bickford from Anchorage, lobbyist, compensated for $12,000. Siley L. Gutting, Scottsdale, is in Arizona. Kyle Moore and Company, compensation $12,000. California. Check this out. Eric Eisenheimer, Roosevelt Dauntless Communications. Daily Caller reported that Eisenhower's firm set up at a booth at a Reno gun show in January that was used to recruit veterans, and others to oppose JASTA. To also include asking about their willingness to travel to Washington. This is at a gun show, my friends. Pretty confoundedly nefarious. That sleaze bag that he is. Looks like a total dork, too. Look at it, it's like a little. Like he pulled down his pants so many times to get ahead in life, allegedly. Corey Black, Templeton, Public Policy Solutions, compensation $12,000. Now go to Colorado. Shelby Bulwark, Denver, per her Twitter account, vice chair of the Denver GOP. Email obtained by 28page.org indicated that Bulwark has helped Jason Johns organize veterans lobbying trips. Terry Snyder, Denver, Integrated Legislative Solutions. In Florida, hey. Timothy P. Buckley, Orlando, Salone McKenzie, Public Affairs. Roy Landerson, Ave Maria, Florida, and Portland, Maine, Strategic Advocacy. James Miller, Sarasota, Identity Unknown, compensated at $12,000. I'm going to read this in its entirety, so bear with me, okay? Illinois, Jeffrey Dixon. Chicago, Identity Unknown. Indiana, Pete Terrell. Indianapolis, Winston Terrell Group. Iowa, Diane Lederman. South Dakota and Des Moines, newly elected chair of South Dakota GOP and former South Dakota State Senator LS2 Group, compensated $8,500. Vereen Phillips, Des Moines, LS2 Group, compensation $8,500. Charles W. Larson Jr., Des Moines, LS2 Group, appointed by George W. Bush as U.S. Attorney for Northern District of Iowa. Former Director of Law Enforcement of Saudi Arabia's Highway Patrol Project. Man, these guys look like from cartoons, man. Cartoon characters here. Tyler Gregory Campbell, Des Moines, LS2 Group. Ashley May Hunt, Des Moines, LS2 Group. Employer orders Huffington Post bloggers on women's issues to advance agenda on misogynistic monarchs. Jay Harder, Wichita and Des Moines, LS2 Group. Kim D. Schmidt, Clive, Iowa, Schmidt & Associates, compensation $25,000. Connie L. Schmidt, Clive, Iowa, Schmidt and Associates, compensation $25,000. Kansas, Jay Harder, Wichita and Des Moines, LS2 Group. Kevin G. Yoel, Overland Park, Identity Unknown, compensation $12,000. Kentucky, Kevin E. Ballard, Louisville, Government Affairs, Pro, Paris, Public Relations. Louisiana, Thomas Bradley Keith, Perreville, Gulf South Strategies and Solutions, compensation $18,000. Wow. Randall L. Hayden, Baton Rouge Creative Communications. This is happening now in Maine. Roy Landerson, Ave Maria, Florida, and Portland, Maine President. Strategic Solutions. Advocacy, excuse me. Let's just check this out. What the strategic advocacy is. Oh, they got a website. strategicadvocacy.com. And they're on here. Interesting. All right. And their website is not really all that, according to this. I just want to see. Do one more link. Yeah, okay. So there's not a whole lot there. Probably hiding. In Maryland, Richard Aberuzzi, Baltimore KOFA Public Affairs, Yosef Rice, Baltimore Identity Unknown, compensation $5,000 maximum. David H. Carroll Jr., Annapolis Identity Unknown, Massachusetts, Holly Robichaud, Situate, Boston Herald blogger and owner of political consulting firm Tuesday Associates, compensation $12,000. Kathleen Summers Grice, C. District Columbia, Michigan. Matthew Rich from Lansing, RWC Advocacy Right Strategies. Minnesota, Andrew Michael Zabal. St. Paul, Identity Unknown. Kristen Kokoski, Stillwater, KK and Company, former National Press Secretary for the Republican National Committee, Communications Director for John McCain and Scott Walker's presidential campaigns. Ooh, so hopefully people who are Tea Partiers are looking at this as well. I'm not going after them, okay? I'm not going to be picking on them as a whole, but they need to be aware that these bastards are trying to manipulate and con you on the people they support, and they try to do things behind your backs. Like this. Christine Sheenan, Stillwater, KK and Company. Patrick Connolly, St. Paul, Connolly, Cole Group. Mississippi, Stacy O. Sharp, Jackson, Identity Unknown. Missouri, Lynn Schlosser, St. Louis Government Relations Consultant, compensation $12,000. Nevada, Shannon Balbury Exarod, Las Vegas, will be elected to the Nevada State Assembly. Balbury Exarod signed her FARA form from October 14th, just 25 days before being elected to office. How nice. Charity Stevens, Las Vegas, Alchemy Associates, organized Karma, former Assistant Chief of Staff for Representative Alan Boyd. Ronnie Council, Las Vegas, organized Karma. Adia Blankmanship, Las Vegas, organized Karma. New Hampshire, Paul Young, Portsmouth, Novus Public Affairs, GOP strategist, former advisor to the Lindsey Graham campaign. Neocon Haven, right? Yeah. Brennan M. Ward, Manchester, Novus Public Affairs, New Jersey. John R. Bombardery, Tudorville, CLB Partners. North Carolina, David Minor, Kerry, former representative in North Carolina legislator. Compensation, $30,000. J. Ballard Everett, Raleigh, Ballard Everett Associates, compensation, $12,000. North Dakota, Tamara Abak, Bismarck, Identity Unknown. Darren Lee, Bismarck, North Dakota, President, Great Plains Group, compensation, $50,000. Ohio, John Farno, Minister, Identity Unknown. In Oregon, Timothy S. Loiser, Portland, Public Relations. Chris Edmonds, Portland, Hubell Communications. How about Pennsylvania? Michael Pure, Pittsburgh, Dwayne Morris, Government Strategies. And Kathleen DeLand, Pittsburgh, Dwayne Morris, Government Strategies. Ashley Henry Shook, Pittsburgh, Dwayne Morris, Government Strategies. Amy Kamenetsky, Pittsburgh, Dwayne Morris, Government Strategies. Well, man, 3 birds with 1 stone, right? Joseph Kuklis, Pittsburgh, Wellington Strategies, compensated $6,000 a month, max fee. South Carolina, D. Hollis Veckel II, Greenville, Veckel Group. Andrew S. Holt, Greenville, Sherlock Strategy Group. South Dakota, Daniel Lederman, Dakota Dunes in Des Moines, Iowa, newly elected chair of South Dakota GOP and former South Dakota State Senator. LS2 Group, compensation $8,500. Tennessee, Paul Stanley, Collierville, Tennessee, former state senator, career ended by controversy, ended compensation $12,000. Texas, William D. Horton, Austin, Identity Unknown. Utah, Andrew Stevenson, Draper, Stevenson Consulting, $12,000 compensation. Virginia, H. Benson Dendy III, Richmond, Vector Corporation. Christopher J. Rice, Richmond, aforementioned, Vector Corporation. And his other 3 are in there as well from Richmond. We got Philip A. Abraham, Lauren R. Abraham, and David Skiles. And Christopher West, Alexandria, Identity Unknown, compensation $30,000. Jody Tefford, Seattle, Identity Unknown, compensation $36,000. Charlotte Newman, Summer, Newman Navigations, compensation $12,000. Wisconsin, Jason Johns, Madison, National Senior Vice Commander, Military Order of the Purple Heart and proprietor of NMLB Veterans Advocacy Group in Madison, Wisconsin, fee $100,000. John is at the heart of a scheme by which large groups of veterans motivated by a false description of JASTA are flown to Washington to lobby against the law. Veterans who have participated told 28pages.org that Saudi Arabia's role is not being disclosed. Names in the red are linked to the veterans lobby scandal. Of course, 28pages.org is dedicated to accuracy. So, this is pretty damn disturbing. How far can you go? And this is why we got foreign influences trying to tell the American people what to do and all that. And lobbyist groups. Very treacherous, my friends. And even people in there, including Charles Schumer, which I still keep my comments about him, did make a right decision on overturning the veto. And like I always said before, they're just part of under the same umbrella. It's a lot bigger than what it is. And these folks here, you call it treasonous? Yeah. But it's got to be a lot more meritability as well to prove they had nothing to do with it. But based on those documents from the 28 pages, which the website has, that you can look it up for yourselves, there's a lot more than meets the eye. I knew about this. Hell, I knew about this years ago, friends. And I'm not some expert, I admit that. But we got to still create bigger dents to put the whole truth out on what occurred on September 11th, 2001, which even in this day, I will never back down. It was a New World Order agenda, period. No ends, ifs, or buts. They never attacked us because of our freedoms. It's still a monumental lie. And even doesn't matter what news sites or sources you get, whether from the left and right, I still get ticked off when they called it extreme Islam was behind were the authors of this horrific event. They're just pawns of the game at the max. It's a lot bigger than what it is, and even the 19 hijackers, a great amount of them are not devout Muslims. Period. Prove me wrong if you dare. Especially look up the connection, 9/11 connection in South Florida at Shuckham's Hollywood, and or the strip joint. What's it called? I think it was Cheetah. I think it was. Or Cheetah or Sport. One of them, yeah, in Sarasota. All getting wasted, getting dancers, or getting drunk at the bars. And Shuckham said what they're going to use to the what they're going to use for the airplanes, and use a book of Quran to a book Quran table. I'm sorry, that's not Islamic. You talk to a guy who may not agree with a lot of the views. However, you got to take the initiative on reading this too. A lot of rough edges. Even the Old Testament, the Bible, people said a lot of rough edges in there as well. But I'm not here to preach. But address, I would say, put out the information at the best of my ability. But all these folks here who are involved in this Fair Registration Act, they may even manipulate the Saudis. Oh yeah, I'll just take the money and run. That's possible too. But it's very, I would say, a turn-off. So, you just got to make your own decisions, my friends. And, like I said, your viewpoints is always be honored. I'll be right back. All right. So, next thing we're going to be talking about, very interesting here. Speaking of 9/11, how about, so it's from Bloomberg, came out yesterday, and U.S. airports pat-downs are about to get more invasive. White House has reformed a controversial guest worker program is an issue we are closely careful looking at. Okay, never mind that. For a decade. Let me see. Hold on here. Let me just see one moment. Looks like sometimes these things they get too much compressed. That's the word. All right. Justin Bachman, by the way. While few have noticed, U.S. airport security workers long had an option of using 5 different types of physical pat-downs at the screening line. Now those options have been eliminated and been replaced with a single universal approach. This time you will notice the new physical touching for those selected to have a pat-down will be what the federal agency officially describes as more comprehensive physical screening, according to the Transportation Security Administration spokesman. Denver International Airport, for example, notified employees and flight crew are on Thursday. The more rigorous searches will be more thorough and may involve an officer making more intimate contact than before. I would say people who in the past will have gotten a pat-down that wasn't involved will notice that the new pat-down is more involved. TSA spokesman Bruce Anderson said Friday. The shift from the previous risk-based assessment on which pat-down procedure an officer should apply phased in over the past 2 weeks after tests at smaller airports, he said. The TSE screens about 2 million people daily at U.S. airports. The agency doesn't track how many passengers are subject to pat-down searches after they pass through an imaging scanner. People who decline to use the screening technology are automatically subject to physical searches. While passengers may find processes more intrusive, the new screening procedures is expected to increase overall airport security delays. However, for the person who gets the pat down, it will slow them down, Anderson said. So it's going to be more of a guilt trip. Mind control 101, allegedly, right? Right now, where I'm reading so far, won't be surprised. The change is partly a result of the agency's study of a 2015 report that criticized aspects of TSA screening procedures. That audit by the Department of Homeland Security's Inspector General drew headlines because airport officers had failed to detect handguns and other weapons. Additional change prompted by the reporter was the TSA's decision to end its managed inclusion program, by which some everyday travelers were allowed to use pre-checked lanes to speed things up at peak times. Could we say the word extortion? Absolutely. Financially speaking, that is. Physical screening has long been one of the traveling public's strongest dislikes regarding airport security protocols. The TSA shall all pat-downs conducted by an officer of the same sex as a traveler and allows a passenger to request a private area for the screening as well to have a witness present. Likewise, a traveler can request the pat-down occur in public view. New policy also applies to airline pilots and flight attendants classified as known crew members who generally receive less scrutiny at checkpoints. TSA conducts occasional random searches of these employees, and the airlines this week inquired as to whether employees would be subject to more frequent pat-downs. A number of random searches for airline crews isn't changing and will remain a very small percentage of the total, Anderson said, but airport employees may face more random checks. Random searches also vary by airport depending on the screening program, Anderson said. Sometimes it's random, sometimes they're consistent based on the door you enter. He said of the searches given workers with airport ID badges, sometimes those measures call for a pat-down. In their notice, Denver officials said employers are subject to search at random locations. If a pat-down is required as part of the operation, badge employees will be required to comply with TSA officers' request to conduct a full-body pat-down. In December, CNN political commentator Angela Rye posted an article online describing her humiliation during the TSA's agent search. Rye wrote in graphic detail about the pat-down of her genitals during the search at the Detroit airport before a flight to New York. TSA official didn't immediately address whether the new universal pat-down protocol will mandate touching of all passenger genitals. Okay, well, I can tell you this, my friends. If you're going to do this pat down, I would recommend you get real stinky, wear the smelliest underwear and socks, have bad hygiene to drive these agents crazy. Let them get sick of your odor, okay? If they're going to treat you like garbage, give it back to them 5 or 6 times more. And it'll be uncomfortable for a lot of folks, but you know what? Sometimes you got to have fun with these delegates. All right. So if you're gonna make the statement by saying you got to do it this way, you know what? Give them a lot more than what they can chew on. So you know what? Clog the system. Screw these body scanners because it's been proven time and time again. It does give you affects your DNA and gets people sick. And what's really messed up, if you go to a lot of these airports, okay, they have these body scanners. A lot of them not wearing any vests. So these people are suffering as well. So I recommend that. You know who works for the TSA and pat downs? I'm not condemning you, but you might have to get another job as soon as possible because I do this. Let everyone go there, smell badly, wear dirty clothes, have bad body odor, and let them stink up the place. And you know what? Then they'll say, okay, let's reconsider. You know? That's enough said of that. I think it's totally ludicrous in my own personal view. So I'm going to carry on here. And this one here came from FIRE, Foundation for Individual Rights in Education. And this one is about individual, like Charles Murray, I think his name is. Yeah. And it says here, violent Middlebury protesters injure professor, force invited speaker to flee lecture hall. This is by Anne Murray. Came out yesterday. A successful heckler's veto and injury to a professor that was an academic and writer. Charles Murray was met when he arrived at Vermont's Middlebury College yesterday to deliver a public lecture. Murray has been invited by Middlebury student group affiliated with the American Enterprise Institute, a think tank at which Murray is a scholar. Many of his writings are controversial, perhaps none more than The Bell Curve, a book that links intelligence and race, and that has been widely condemned by many social scientists, even as Murray has been supported by others. Prior to the point when Murray was introduced, several Middlebury officials reminded students that they were allowed to protest but not to disrupt the talk. Students ignored those reminders and faced no visible consequences for doing so. As soon Murray took the stage, students stood up, turned their backs to him, and started various chants that were loud enough and in unison such that he could not talk over them. There's a video, like a 44-minute video on this. All right. With the lecture unable to continue, Middlebury officials then moved Murray to a separate location and live streamed his talk into original venue. Per Murray's officials, Middlebury officials, Murray's car was subsequently attacked by protesters who surrounded the car, jumped onto it, pounded on it, and tried to prevent the car from leaving campus. And the Addison County Independent reports that appalling details that Professor Allison Stanger had to be retreated at a local hospital. One of the demonstrators pulled Professor Stanger's hair and twisted her neck. According to Middlebury official quoted in the Independent, Stanger is wearing a neck brace following the attack. The day before Murray's planned speech, a letter signed by more than 450 Middlebury alumni and published in the campus newsletter decried Murray's invitation and encouraged students to dissent and make that dissent known howsoever you see fit. In their letter, the alumni employ the same flawed rationale we at the FIRE here at time and time again. We support free speech. This is not this free speech. This is not an issue of freedom of speech. We think it is necessary to allow a diverse range of perspectives to be voiced at Middlebury. In college, we learn through thoughtful, compassionate, and often difficult discussions inside the classroom and out. Conversations in which our beliefs were questioned and our assumptions challenged. We fully support the core liberal arts principles that contact with other intellectual viewpoints and life experiences that one owns integral to a beneficial education. However, in this case, we find the principle does not apply. The alumni argued that Murray's scholarship lacks quality and that his views are offensive, but these are subjective determinations, not a principled basis by which to limit freedom of speech. A mob censorship is undeniably a free speech issue. While Middlebury is a private institution, it places a high value on free speech, proclaiming that free intellectual inquiry, debate, and constructive dialogue are vital to Middlebury's academic mission and must be protected even when the views expressed are unpopular or controversial. Middlebury warned students not to disrupt the speech and employed a backup plan to ensure Murray's message was eventually heard. In a statement today, Middlebury President Lori L. Patton said she was deeply disappointed by last night's events and lamented that Middlebury community failed to live up to our core values. She apologized to Murray, Professor Stagner, and everyone who came in good faith to participate in the serious discussion. Fire will defend anyone's right to peacefully protest and challenge any speaker idea, but responding to speech with violence or by shouting it down is not acceptable. Sadly, Fire's response to violent protests last month at UC Berkeley must already be repeated. The use of mob violence to respond to constitutionally protected expression is an affront to our nation's liberal traditions. It must not be allowed on our campuses. And she's right. They are absolutely right. They are right. He's right. Is it Alex? Yeah, Alex Morris. Sorry about that. Morris. Absolutely right. So, regardless of what your views are, you can never, ever attack or deprive someone's right to speak, peacefully to assemble, or redress the government grievances, or what they publish. You could be critical, absolutely. But using violence is unnecessary, unacceptable, and I condemn it with a passion. A lot of you clowns are involved in there. You make Karl Marx and Mao Tse-tung extremely proud. Yeah, calling you out. And don't get me wrong, I'm not being say you can't call me a racist because it's all been watered down. Because there's a lot of great creativity from every single one of us, regardless of how we look. I remember looking at the bell curve. I haven't really read it, and I openly admit that. I knew it was pretty controversial just from the explanation itself. But you don't go around injuring people. They didn't make any threats towards you. They didn't go kick in your door or violate your space. Like I said, I'm ordering a t-shirt. I'm going to be wearing a lot of these events. And it doesn't matter if you get offended or not. Free speech is more important than your feelings. And two, I will not censor myself to comfort your ignorance. There are a lot of folks out there I'm not too crazy about either. But they have the right to be heard. You can criticize them, laugh at them. I do. If I don't go around throwing garbage at them or threaten to beat their behinds or endangering their families or their bystanders. You folks better really learn of what you're doing. Because some of the founding fathers are right now rolling in their graves. I'm going to see something here. You can say one of the philosophers of freedom.
I haven't used his name in a while, but I want to say, what the hell? Well, this is from azquotes.com. Some of the stuff what Jefferson said about free speech. I would rather be exposed to the inconveniences intending too much liberty than those attending too small a degree of it. And here's another one. Were it left to me to decide whether we should have a government without newspapers or newspapers without a government, I should not hesitate a moment to prefer the latter. Which foot is to be measured, to which hour is to be cut or stretched? That's Thomas Jefferson on free speech. I'm going to add that to the memo for you so-called wannabe poser-ass activists out there. Don't get me wrong, I have some folks out there I'm aligned with. We have different political views, but when it comes to this, we censure it with the passion. I've been very consistent about it, too. You're going to reap what you sow. It's going to blow back in your faces when least expected. We're going to go, what have I done wrong? I'm just wondering how many of you actually had a hard day's work in your life. Trying to make ends meet. Got your hands dirty. I have. I find this, a lot of these protesters are doing this are weak and pathetic and have the attributes of the Jim Jones syndrome. Being brainwashed. Can't even think for yourselves. Part of the her conformity, congratulations. That's what the late Anton LaVey would say. Her conformity. All right. Finally, it's by Heastis.com. And it came out a couple of days ago, if I'm correct. And it's based about Scripps College. Heatstreet.com. Yeah, and it's written by Ian Miles Cheong. And it says, white students should pay minorities for emotional labor. Scripps College, a prestigious women's school outside of Los Angeles, promoting an idea that non-white students must be given monetary compensation for the emotional labor of having to deal with so-called microaggressions. Campus resident assistants at the school are hanging up 2 sets of posters titled Emotional Labor, one for whites and another for minorities, to whom dubbed as victims of emotional labor. Per Claremont Independent, both posters define emotional labor as having to exert energy for the purpose of addressing people's feelings, educating, making people comfortable, or living up to social expectations. They continue, victims of emotional labor can be cornered in classrooms, on social media, or in social events. If you're constantly having to explain or defend, this could be you. The poster for minorities provide advice on what the victims can do to remove themselves from oppressive situations. You don't owe anyone anything at the expense of your mental health, it reads. It goes on to provide tips to avoid overexertion, suggests that minorities can refer to Google to look things up, call on professors and white peers to educate people, and even demand payment for telling someone off. Was this a new occupation? Charges out for your services, the post suggests. If you decide it, you're going to do it. At least get paid. I like when you get these little ads, you know. The guide directed towards white students provides examples of how you might be forcing someone to perform emotional labor in the form of questions they could ask themselves. Could I have Googled the answer but I chose not to? Do I find myself in a situation where people of color form a marginalized group are educating me? What power dynamics are at play? Do I find myself getting defensive? Are people telling me I'm causing them emotional labor? This message ends with suggesting that white students should pay compensation, educate themselves with ethnic studies classes, join social justice communities, and take ownership for harm you caused. The poster mirror what you might find on social media, where social justice warriors often demand financial recompense for calling people out and yell at others to educate themselves when taken to task for their statements. The most pathetic platform I've read in a long time. I'm offended. Pay me, please. Yeah, tell that to the great folks like Sarah Parks and a few others that stood up for what was right. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., people that achieved, made some great inventions such as Eli Whitney, and great botanists like George Washington Carver and Frederick Douglass. They're rolling in their graves. This is downright despicable, pathetic, weak, and hired buffoons putting this pieces of garbage out. That's right. How dumbed down do you want to be? How pathetic and incompetent. That's what they're telling you here. By Claremont Independent. I'm just wondering. Let's just find out where Claremont Independent came from. I'm going to hit their website right now. Donations. Ooh. Yeah, it says it right here. Yeah, they want you to feel sorry for who you are. Piss on you. Ungrateful pieces of garbage. That's right. Meet the staff. Let's see how pristine these clowns look. There's a link on there. You can see it for yourselves. Stephen Glick, Matthew Reed. Let me see here what Stephen Glick looks like. You have an Irish name, I see. Oh, yeah. From New York. Southside Chicago. Economics and math. Yep. Another Uncle Tom. We got a bunch of Uncle Toms and Angel Mamas. I won't be surprised if they're globally funded, my friends. It's just too obvious with Claremont. They're not that independent. They're bending over someone bigger. And they went, yeah, baby, give it to me. We know something like that, my friends. I would take a dump on it and send it back to them. Defecated it to the core. And I know one thing. They're just a bunch of bend over Bobs and Barbies to the one world order. Prove me wrong if you dare. Claremont Independent. And that is all, my friends. I'd like to thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share this throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or you got something interesting you may want to check out, whatever you do, please deliver your correspondence with decorum. Hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Tumblr, YouTube, Scene.life, Freedoms Network, and Minds.com. In addition, you can email me at LokiLuck3, which is look at the number 3, at gmail.com. I may be adding another email address or two, encrypted purposes, but it will be addressed in the very near future. All right. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.